Okay, guys, I just finished watching Netflix movie Space Sweepers, and it is every space pirate genre lover's wet dream. Hey guys, my name is Maria Park, and this is Approach the Nerd. And in this episode, we are reviewing the Netflix Korean movie Space Sweepers. This movie was directed by Jo Sung-hee and written by Yoo Sung-min, Yoo Kang-soe, and Jo Sung-hee. I'm doing my very best with pronouncing all the Korean names. I'm married to a Korean American and I'm learning Korean, but I'm still not there yet, so cut me some slack, guys. As for the movie, it heavily reminds me of movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, but with a sprinkle of Outlaw Star, Cowboy Bebop, Firefly, The Expanse, Kazoku Sentai Gokaiger, Space Pirate Captain Harlock, Marvel Comics Starjammers, and oddly, a little bit sprinkled in of Resident Evil, which I will explain later. And being that space pirates make up one of my all time favorite story genres, I love the hell out of this movie. Um, let's get to the synopsis and then I'll kind of break down a little bit more on what made this movie amazing. So it's set in the year 2019, and Earth has become nearly uninhabitable due to like dust burning in the skies and soil, like acidic soil, covering the ground. This major conglomerate or mega conglomerate calling itself UTS has developed a new orbiting home where the elite 1% of humanity live. And the decision of admittance is left to this creator, visionary, and pretty much the CEO of UTS named James Sullivan. He's played by Richard Armitage. He has a strict and what I've seen in this movie, very homicidal way of determining who is allowed to become a citizen of UTS and who basically will be carrying out humanity. It's for this reason people start taking on dangerous jobs like sweeping or basically chasing down debris in space to make a few bucks. To add on to this, Sullivan has plans to terraform Mars for colonization next, which he's already started doing by stealing resources from the already dying Earth. Now, the movie introduces our main crew. They're a junk collector crew on a ship called the Victory. It is headed by Captain Jong, who's played by Kim Tae-ri, who is very badass and kind of an alcoholic. But she actually, there's more about her that meets the eye. She happens to be an ex special forces squad officer who basically didn't like how stuff was going down and deserted her post and formed her own pirate organization. Um, Unfortunately, she tries to assassinate Sullivan, and most of her original crew gets killed. So she has a deep hatred for Sullivan. Next, we have Tae-ho, played by Song Joong-ki, and who was a child soldier and a former commander of the Space Guards and the first ever UTS genius. Now, Teo would break the rules after taking out a ship of people and he killed everyone on board, but he sees a baby and this is the first time he's ever seen a baby or possibly a child in his entire life. So he takes to it and then decides to keep it and become the baby's father. Therefore, he's raising his daughter. Unfortunately, he then loses his job due to no longer being able to take lives and is banished to homelessness with his daughter, where he kind of takes up gambling to try and make a few bucks. It's during one of these games after he sends his young daughter out to get something to eat so he can focus more on the game that a disaster occurs. And unfortunately, everyone outside of the game center in the open market gets blasted into outer space, including Teho's daughter. When he goes to a company that locates lost people using their DNA and I guess nanobots are the technology that's in this movie, he learns that because he's no longer a UTS citizen and his citizenship is revoked, that he has to pay upfront in cash $200,000. And he has 3 years to make the payments, or his daughter's body will be left or moved into orbit. I guess it's a process of the body's just floating and they can track it within a period of time. But once it gets to a certain point outside of the orbit radius, it's just gone and the signal's gone forever. So he is desperate to make cash, and that is why he joins the Victory crew. Our next crew member is a man named Tiger Park, and he is played by Jin Son-kyu. And he's a former drug cartel boss who was sentenced to death on Earth. So he escapes and eventually joins the Victory crew. Now, Tiger's probably one of my favorite characters due to his protectiveness and paternal bonding of Dorothy, who I will talk about in a second. And the last member of the crew is the robot Bubs, voiced by hae-jin. He's a very comical robot who basically wants to get skin grafts and become a real girl. Bubs was found by the crew in the trash, basically, and was a former military weapon. At times, though, in the movie, it seemed like Bubs actually acts a lot more human than his human counterparts. He definitely is very good with comedic timing, too. So the crew they take on this, their lives take on a turn because they're looking for money and they take a job where they find a damaged ship. But on that ship, they discover a girl named Dorothy, played by this adorable young actress. Her name is Bak-yerin, who seems like a 7-year-old child on the outside, but is supposedly, according to the news, a robot that is considered dangerous because she has a hydrogen bomb, making her a weapon of mass destruction. Now, the crew, who is deeply in debt, try to trade Dorothy to this terrorist group that they've seen on the news called the Black Fox. And they have a contact, a man named Kang Hyun-yu, played by Kim Woo-yeol, whose documents and contact number are found on a smartphone inside of Dorothy's backpack when they picked her up. And so he is their main Black Fox contact, and they make a deal for $2 million to trade Dorothy, who they think is just a robot girl, to this organization to do with whatever. But when they meet Hyun-yu, they are attacked by space forces and are forced to flee with Dorothy. It isn't long, though, before Captain Jung, who witnesses Dorothy create a force field around her and Tae-ho when they are escaping and space forces shooting at them, before she figures out that Dorothy is a little bit more special than they first thought. We also learn that Dorothy can not only make dying plants on their ships grow, but she can talk and potentially control nanobots. Then there's the fact that Dorothy is actually human and not a robot. In fact, she's a young girl named Go-nim, and that her father is Hyun-yu. So apparently, when Go-nim was little, she developed a fatal nerve disorder, and since no other treatments were working to cure her, her father, Hyun-yu, who is revealed to be a scientist, injects her with nanobots. She makes a full recovery, and she even is able to walk again. But she also has the ability to control nanobots, and as we see in the movie, she's also able to bring dead plants to life. See the Resident Evil reference right there? Angela dying, injected by her scientist daddy, Dr. Charles Ashford, with the T virus. That's what it reminded me of. So the real struggle of the film is that Sullivan wants a new world on Mars where most of humanity who he has deemed unfit to continue will not be permitted. He puts a price on Dorothy's head because he realized that she has the potential to save everyone on Earth. And basically, she's humanity's last hope. So convincing people that she is a dangerous robot with a hydrogen bomb built in, and that the environmental group, Black Fox, who is trying to save her along with her father, are terrorists, he can set in motion his grand plan of causing a catastrophic event with Dorothy on board, crashing basically into the earth and destroying all of humanity. Now, there are moments in this movie that are very sad, like Sullivan shooting Go-nim's father and Tae-ho taking the money from Sullivan offered to find his daughter. But then we get redemption. I really loved how the crew were with each other in this movie. They acted like they hated each other, although they were obviously bonded like a family, but they were not above attempting murder. So it was a very cool relationship. Tiger's doting on Go-nim was adorable, and soon she had the entire crew wrapped around her finger, and she would draw these adorable pictures of everyone to put on their fridge. And the final arc of the story, it made sense that each of the members of the crew were so bonded and protected of Go-nim by that point that they would give up their lives for her, and they try to. They basically decide to take the bomb away from the Earth's radius where the blast would not affect it, and leave Go-nim with Pierre, who is let's just say a guy very smitten with Captain Jong. He is actually very funny in this movie. And they take the bomb along with the deranged Sullivan, who's chasing them down, thinking they have Dorothy still, um, to blow the bomb up with themselves on the ship. Now, Captain Jong, as smart as she is, there was something that kind of didn't bother me, but I'm going to nitpick about. Seeing that she saw multiple times in the movie how Glutnium could actually communicate and have, you know, the nanobots protect her, why did she not think that they, you know, Goat Nim could make a shield for them, you know, to be protected as well? I mean, they literally through an asteroid and junk field that should have killed them had not Goat Nim been on board. So the blast radius would have been fine because she would have had nanobots to shield them. And that's exactly what happens. They go off to sacrifice themselves, and Goat Nim sends nanobots to save her family. I thought that was really interesting. And the scene where the ship is coming in with the bots, and the crew doesn't even realize they're still alive immediately, and they're just like, oh my god, and they're hugging each other, was amazing. Especially since they started telling each other, you know, I love being with you guys. You're like my family. You know, it's a very cool moment. I also wish, though, in the movie they had also explained what in the hell was happening with Sullivan's crazy veins and monster voice. Like, was he injecting himself with something? He gives us this like really sad story about how his mother was burned alive with his siblings, you know, during a wartime in his village, and how he witnessed it. It doesn't say how he survived, but I don't know if somewhere in between that and now, because he's obviously really disturbed, that he maybe experimented on himself, or maybe someone experimented on him, you know, I don't know. But he would do that. He would have a monster voice, and he somehow was able to control the veins in his body, but they never fleshed that out, unless it was so fast that I missed it. So I don't know what in the world that was about. So yeah, I would have loved to have a little bit more exposition on Sullivan's, you know, issue because I feel like there was one. Outside of that, though, I loved everything about this movie, and I was so happy to see the crew now raising Gutnim. And Bubs got his skin grafts and now looks like a hot young Korean girl, though with a man's voice, you know. And we see Gutnim helping Taeho connect with his deceased daughter to say goodbye, which was such a sweet and sad, you know, scene, and also helping to grow trees back on Earth to start Earth's recovery. So yeah, this movie all in all was a 10 out of 10 for me. I love space pirates, so it's hard for me not to like it, but you can do it incorrectly, which I'm hoping is not going to happen with Netflix's Cowboy Bebop live action. We'll see. I mean, the cast looks pretty good so far. I have high hopes, but again, it's not impossible to screw up one of my favorite genres. But if you love any of the shows or the movies that I mentioned, you will definitely love this. So give it a chance. And yeah, if you have seen it, I would love to know what you thought about it. So leave me a comment below. And if you would like to sign up for jury duty, hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to know who's next on their ballot, hit the notification bell. Until next time, I can't wait for you to approach the nerd. Bye, guys.
Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it, but hey, the party doesn't have to stop now. Click on one of these videos and keep it going.